with Tammy. So the first thing we're doing is we're taking the cauliflower heads and we're removing the exterior leaves. Ooh, we got like some nice brown stuff. If you have any like this surface mold and stuff on it, you can just cut it off. It's just on the surface. You put that with your leaves. And take off your little, your stem. So we're gonna cut the cauliflower into not bite-sized pieces, but smaller pieces. It'll cook faster, that's the only reason, because it really isn't necessary. But we wanna get mostly the flower part of the cauliflower, not so much the stems, and it does just kind of fall apart. Now when I'm putting it in here, this is about an inch and a half maybe of cold water in the bottom of a pot. And I'm just gonna break this apart. See, that one's a little big. I want that to cook a little faster, so I'm gonna cut that one in half. And we'll throw that in there. Ah! Once they fall on the floor, go to the dog. Vegetables are good for him. It won't make him fatter. All right. Yeah, he doesn't like cold cauliflower. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing with this one.
He's carrying it around.
Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing with this one, and when I'm finished putting this one in, I'm gonna take this much salt, and this is my measuring tool. It's called a hand, and I know if I crimp my hand like that, I put about that much in it, that's about half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm gonna sprinkle that in, and you go like this to get it off your hands. I'm gonna put this on the stove, and I'm gonna put it on medium-high heat for about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so it's actually been just about 20 minutes because I have a lot of cauliflower in here. So if you do 2 heads of cauliflower, maybe go 20 minutes. And the way you know it's done is if you take your fork and you can just kind of stick it in there and see it's nice and soft, but it's still giving some resistance. It's still in one piece. We're ready to go. That's good. Okay, it is time to strain. So there shouldn't be too much water left, but there will be some. So go ahead and get a strainer in the sink or however you want to do this. A colander, if you must.
A cauliflower.
A cauliflower. Thank you, Erin. And you want to let that sit for just a minute, see how it's steaming? That's going to let all of the water get out of the cauliflower, and you want that because otherwise you have soupy cauliflower. You don't want soupy cauliflower. At this point, you need to have a sip of wine. After you've done that very important step. All right, so I microwaved a few tablespoons of butter, and you can see it's kind of separated now. The solids actually have sunk to the bottom. If you do this on a stove, it's very interesting. They actually float to the top. But anyway, so I'm gonna pour off the oil from the butter, and the reason I'm doing that is because we have our friend Kiana, who is lactose intolerant, and if you look, the milk solids are left back in the measuring cup, and this is clear oil, which does not have the things in the milk that bother her. It's like 98% oil, and the rest, there's a teeny tiny bit of milk solids in there, and that's it. So, and this is also where you have like the bad cholesterol and stuff like that. So you can just use that part and you'll get the flavor, or you can add this in and use it if you want. So we're gonna get to the cauliflower now in just a sec. Okay. So what we're going to do is season the cauliflower first. And again, my really handy dandy measuring spoon right here, my hand. This is garlic powder. I kind of like garlic, so I'm gonna put kind of a lot. It's about 3/4 of a teaspoon there. And you don't have to worry about sprinkling it around. We're gonna mix it all in. And then I'll do about the same, little less than that with the salt. And I use sea salt for flavoring. You saw earlier I was just using like regular salt in the water. But for this is gonna stay in my food, so I use a better quality salt. And then pepper, I like pepper grinders, so you get the fresh aromatic pepper rather than that staler kind of stuff. Plus this is gonna have a coarser grind to it, and the stuff you buy in the store doesn't. Now when you first do it, it looks like there's a lot of seasoning on here, but you gotta remember it's all just sitting on top. It's gonna get blended. So put that pepper in there, and then we're gonna add some parsley. Partially, not parsley. And you can use fresh, but I didn't want that pungent taste. I just wanted a little hint here. So there's my parsley. And that's pretty much it for the flavoring. We're gonna stick with that. And then I am going to add the oil, the butter oil, the clarified butter, to this now. And this is probably about about 4 tablespoons. We're gonna put that all in there. And before you start whipping it, don't turn the beaters on. Just kind of mash it, and you can see it falls right apart. A little dry where normally I would add half and half, but because I'm trying to avoid milk products, I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to get this a little creamier. All right. At this point, I'm gonna put some aside for Kiana because this is where I'm gonna start adding dairy. So, and you can see it's a nice mushy mash. Kiana, with the little bit that you eat, that's enough for like what, a week? Put that aside for Kiana. All right, and now I am going to add, so now I'm down to basically about like 1.5 heads of cauliflower here. I'm gonna add a very generous tablespoon of sour cream. I'm actually gonna add probably 2. Okay, and I am going to take some half and half. Just put a little bit of that in there. And we're gonna whip this some more. Okay. This is the part where I taste it. I always taste everything I cook because I don't want anybody else eating something I haven't eaten.
They say to do that on all the food shows.
There you go. Totally edible. I'm gonna put some more pepper in it.
They always say on Chopped, they say winners know what their food tastes like.
Use just a tad bit more salt. Ooh, that's too much. That's way too much. I'm gonna put just like maybe that. Okay, I cleaned my spoon, so I'm not double dipping. That's better. Okay, you may eat that.